Hi everyone, I'm Jerry Ford and welcome to my studio, and this time we're going to be making this cute advent calendar. It's done in your embroidery machine and your sewing machine. You'll need a few things in order to make this, okay? First of all, you're going to need a background fabric, and I'm using this dark blue piece. And it actually depends on how big your designs are as to how big you make this background piece. Take whatever embroidery designs you have in your stash to make the top. You can make it as big or as small as you like. My embroidery at the top I took from my designs, and this design here is from an old Babylock card, about 20 years old. It was called Jumbo Christmas. It's no longer available, but I have it in my stash. Or I made my top design to be about 7 inches high by 14 inches wide, which my biggest embroidery hoop is 9.5 inches by 14. So it all fit in one hooping. I have prepared my fabric by spraying it down with Terreal Magic or several layers of spray starch. For a decent sized advent calendar, it's going to need to be somewhere around 17 or 18 inches wide by 36 inches long. And that's going to be the same for a piece of batting. Should you decide to quilt it, it's not necessary. You're going to need a piece of Decker Bond or really heavy fusible interfacing, the same size, 17 inches by 36. I'm going to cut it down later. I'm going to quilt it, so I'm going to need a piece of batting and a piece of backing, the same size, about 17 inches wide by 36 inches long. And I'm going to be binding it, so I'm going to need about 4 yards of 2 1/4 inch wide binding. It does not have to be on the bias. Now for the pockets, if you're going to follow my design, now you can get this design for me by sending me an email at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I will send you the files for the pockets. Of course, you also have the option of digitizing your own. If you want to learn how to create this design in IQ Designer, watch the video creating your advent calendar pockets with IQ Designer. Or I have another video if you want to do this in Embrillaince Stitch Artist software, and I will show you how to digitize your own pockets. The designs themselves are about 2 inches wide by 3 inches high. Any design you have in your stash will also work. I fused Decker Bond to the back of my background fabric, and the first thing I did is I stitched the top, and I just put it somewhere at the top. This is a very large design, so I used 2 layers of tearaway stabilizer, or you could use just plain cutaway, whatever you have to stitch the main design. I'll press it and then set it aside. We'll come back to it later. You're going to want to cut 5 pieces of 5 inches high by approximately 20 inches wide fabric, and cut 5 of those strips for these pocket strips. You don't have to close them at all. They're gusseted pockets. They don't open very wide, just sort of big enough to put in a piece of candy or a little treat or something like that. I'm choosing to use these cute little buttons that I have. I've got lots of little Christmas buttons here. I want to pick shanked buttons, not flat buttons. And I'm going to use elastic cording that I got at Joann's also. You're going to need about 25 buttons, and if you're going to use the button closers, you're going to need at least 2 yards of this 1/8 inch rolled elastic. Okay, so let's get started on these pockets. You need 5 pocket sections, strips, that are 5 inches high by approximately 20 inches, 21 inches wide. This is what it looks like when it's finished. And it finishes out at approximately 15.5 inches wide. So let's prepare the gusseted pockets. So I have put some Terreal Magic to make it a little stiffer. If you don't have that, then you can also use several layers of just ordinary spray starch. So I'm going to just press in 1/4 inch at the bottom, all along the bottom. Okay, at the top, I'm going to press about 1/8 of an inch in, just a tiny bit, all along the top. Then fold it over about 1/2 inch for a top hem, and press this. You can use some of your Elmer's washable school glue to just baste it down, just to keep it still. I'm just going to simply top stitch this about a half an inch from the top. And I'm just going to do that on my sewing machine. Now we're ready to mark these. You want to make sure you cut off any selvages. I'm going to start at one end. I'm going to measure in 3/4 of an inch from the edge. I'm drawing this in a friction marker. You could use a water soluble. I don't recommend using the air erasable purple markers because of the fact that when you hit that with a hot iron, that purple can sometimes turn brown and not be removable. Okay, I'm going to mark this. So here, that's 3/4 of an inch in, and then I'm going to do a total of 3 marks at 1/4 inch away. Okay, now here's the beginning of the first pocket, so I'm going to mark that 3 inches, and I want to keep it even with the top so that everything is nice and straight all the time. The marks aren't perfect, it's okay. Now I'm going to unfold this as I'm coming here. I want to make a mark that I can see. You could do this with painter's tape or with the marker, because I'm using my projector. If your machine doesn't have a projector, you don't need that. And also you can usually see where the fold is, but for the camera I need to make it darker, and I need to make it darker right here. Okay, that I'm using because I'm using the projector. Also, if you are putting in a button, just make a mark at where you want that button to go. So I am going to make 4 more lines 1/4 inch apart. So you'll have a total of 5 lines between the pockets. Okay, there's 5 lines. Now 3 inches for the next pocket. Okay, 5 lines total, or another 4. Okay, I'm going to do that for all the pockets, and I will be right back. Okay, here's my 5th pocket. So again, I'm going to end this with just 3 lines. Okay, and now this is ready to go to embroidery. Now, like I said, if you are not putting in buttons, go ahead and hem this at the top, and I will go ahead and do that off camera. Okay, now we need to hoop this. So I'm going to use my KK2000 or any adhesive spray. I'm going to be using my 4x4 hoop, and I'm going to need the template that came along with it. So I have my marks, and this design is about 3 inches wide by 3.5 inches high, so that's the area I have to work with. So I want to center that in the hoop. So I'm going to place this. Your sewing area is inside the grid. So I'm going to spray my stabilizer just a little bit. And I'm going to make sure that the top and the bottom line, or the fold, is on inside the sewing field and everything is relatively straight. Now this has notches, so I have a notch at the top and a notch at the bottom. So I'm just going to fit the notch in, press it down. Now I'm ready to embroider. I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine. When I'm transporting it, I'm going to use these pins to stabilize it so it doesn't pull off. So don't worry, I'm not going to stitch with these. I just want to secure this fabric while I'm walking this over to the machine. I have several designs, and you can digitize them yourself. And if you watch the other videos, which is digitizing the advent calendar using Embrillaince Stitch Artist, or digitizing this motif using the IQ Designer or my Design Center on the Brother or Babylock machines that have that capability. If you don't have either, then send me an email and at waltzquilt@yahoo.com, and I'll be happy to send you the designs. What is not in the design are the numbers. I would recommend drawing out a grid. Write down how you want these to be. So what you want in what row. So I might put 11, 1. Well, here's the grid that I used. I just did a little sheet, and as I finish them, I just check them off. That way, it'll help you keep in line as to what numbers you need to put in. Okay, now how this was designed so that day number 1 has no decorations, nothing. Day number 2 has got 1 piece of garland. Day number 3 will have the next one. 4 will have this. 5 through 23 will all look the same. And how they'll look different is that instead of digitizing each little ornament, I'm going to use hot fix rhinestones. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the machine. Okay, I've got my design. I'm going to go ahead and load it. I'm going to do pocket number 20, so I'm going to use the file that says tree 5 to 23. Select that. Set. If I put the numbers on with the software, I'd have to have 25 different files. So I'm just going to show you, I'm going to have the basic tree. I'm going to turn on my settings page, my 4x4 hoop. It's giving me the outline of the 4x4 hoop. It's rather faint, but you can still see it. And I know that the red box is the basting stitch, and that basting stitch is the same dimension. That's exactly the same as the pocket. So when I target this thing in, that gives me an extra reference line. Okay, so I am going to just add text. I'm going to pick text number 7, and I want to do the numbers 20 set. They're too big, so I'm going to hit edit. However you do that, change the size and reduce it down to, oh, that's a little too small, and then position it wherever you like. It's still a little too big. You can make it in the middle of the tree. You can make the numbers up and down, however you like, any font that you like. In fact, you can mix up the fonts. The basting stitch should be somewhere around here. I am going to go okay here with the size. I have this looking like I want, and I'm going to go all the way to embroidery. I'm going to hit edit. I have 9-point targeting, so I'm going to hit that little key down here. And see, I have my 9 points. So let's start with the right side. So I'm going to go to the right side. My needle should be, it probably needs to move over some. It's not, see, it came just to the right of this line. So let's check the other side. And yes, I know I need to move it right to left. I hit OK, and then I'm going to hit the move. And I know I need to move this over a little bit. I still have this targeted on this left section. This machine has got a laser indicator showing where my needle is, so I can use that. Okay, hit OK. I'm going to go back to the other side and check it. We're good there. I'm going to go to the bottom because I don't want it to sew beyond. This is my seam line for the bottom of the pocket, so I don't want it to sew there. So I'm going to go to the bottom, and it looks like it's pretty much okay. It doesn't have to be exact, but close. And I marked up here where the top of the sewing is. That's fine. It's actually pretty good. Now, my machine has got a camera on it. So I can instead hit the camera key, turn it on, and it's going to scan. And it imprinted the fabric. It's hard to see it. You have to look very close, but I can look and see that those red outline is inside those marks that I made. I can see it on camera. If you're concerned about it being a little crooked, you've got enough white space, you're not going to notice if it's a degree or two off. If you use the plastic templates that came with your machine, your fabric is straight in the hoop to begin with. First thing it's going to stitch out is the basting stitch, and I don't recommend that you not use the basting stitch. Pull the pins out of the fabric, and so now I'm going to stitch this basting. So it's just holding onto it so nothing shifts. It's stitched really good. It's pretty close. Don't have to be perfect. That's basting that's going to come out. All right, first color stop is going to be the brown for the trunk. Color stop is number 3 is going to be the outline for the tree. Okay, and then I'm going to I'm still leaving the brown. I'm not changing it. I have a 3-inch strip of green fabric, and I'm just going to tack down the tree. Okay, and now I'm going to remove the hoop from the machine, but do not remove the fabric from the hoop. And I've got a nice sharp pair of curved scissors, and I'm going to trim away outside of the applique piece. I'm going to put gold metallic thread in for the next color stop. If you were using number 1, block number 1, or pocket number 1, you would go right to the green. Okay. Now it's going to do the garland. Now I'm using Robus and Anton gold metallic thread. You can use any good quality metallic thread. Don't buy the cheap stuff. It's going to fray and shred and break and just give you nightmares. This is so small I didn't even change the needle. I am using a size 12 embroidery needle. If you are having problems, what you will want to do is slow down your machine, change to a metallic needle or a size 14 top stitch needle, slow your machine down to 350 stitches per minute, and loosen your tension. These are candle wicking stitches. They didn't give me any problems at all, so I just used the plain gold metallic thread. Do whatever you need to do to make the metallic work. Now for the last color for the tree, I'm going to use green for the satin stitch that goes around. And this is going to be the same for all of these up to pocket number 23. 24, we'll also add a metallic star, metallic gold star at the top, which would be outside of the green. So you would have to load that gold twice. Okay, and then this will stitch. This is what takes the longest, is this stitching. So this whole thing only takes about 7 minutes to stitch out. So this is the longest part, so I'm going to let it do that. I will be back when it finishes the green. Okay, it's finished the tree, and it's about to do the number. Now, if this were pocket number 24, you'd have a gold star at the top. Number 25, plus all the rhinestones, will come do that later. And then if it were number 25, it also has presents around the bottom of the tree. And I'll show you the presents in just a moment. Okay, it's done stitching this pocket. And so I'm going to turn this over on the back and snip that knot in the center, and then the corners on each of the 4 sides. That removes the basting. Okay. And then from here you can just peel this out. Okay, you're left with a hole, so I'm going to rehoop the stabilizer and pull all of the basting stitches out and remove any of the threads, and I'm ready to go on to the next pocket. Okay, so I will be back when all of these pockets are done. I'll show you block number 25. Here's one row completely stitched. I'm going to start pressing and just sewing the gussets on the pockets closed. So I'm going to finger press on either side of the pocket. Here, just finger press that and edge stitch right along these edges. Sometimes where that embroidery is, you're going to have to hold that steady as you go by it. Sometimes it might be easier if you use the straight stitch foot. Okay, and then finish this all the way down. Again, fold this over. And then the very end, just on this side of the pocket. Okay. You're going to need some pins, and we're going to start pinning this. Okay, so starting at the edge here, here's the edge of the pocket. I'm going to fold the edge of the pocket to that line, and I am just going to pin this in place. Press that particular gusset, okay, especially at the bottom. Okay, where the 2 pockets meet like this, you have one here. There's your center line. That's going to be your seam when you attach this to the background. I'm just going to stab it there. Make them meet in the center, no matter what that line says. Now if you put your pins this way, you're going to have to turn them around because you can't hit those ends with an iron. It's going to melt it. So I'm going to just pin this all the way down. So this meets in the middle. So make sure those meet, and just give it a little press. Okay, and I'm going to do that all the way down. Okay, once these are pinned, I'm going to take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to sew it a scant 1/4 of an inch away from the edge. I want to sew these pleats into place, removing the pins just as you come to them. This is going to block in the gussets at the bottom. Okay. You want to make sure that all the gussets are closed, and this is the time you might want to take it to your ironing board and give it a good press with a little extra spray starch and make sure all of these are closed. Okay, here it is all pressed and pinned and ready to be attached to the background fabric. Okay, I've decided I'm going to go ahead and put button and loop closures on these pockets. So what I did was I went ahead and sewed all my buttons to the center of each pocket already. It's easier to do with the pockets off than to try to sew all these buttons on while it's all attached. So this would be easier. Okay, now the next thing we need to determine is how far to cut this down. I measured my pockets when they're closed, and they're about 15.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut 16 inches from here to here. So what I did was I found the center of my design. Okay, and I was just drawing some lines here. So I have drawn a line all the way down my fabric, down the center, and I measured 8 inches from each side. So now I know that this design is centered and all the pockets will be centered. I'm probably going to cut it back a little bit. Found the center pocket, sort of placed where I want that top one to go. Probably want these spaced about 1/2 inch apart, so I'm just going to sort of measure them, because even the very bottom measurement, I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to go ahead and measure it down. So this is 16 inches. And so I'm just putting these about, just rough guessing them. Okay, about 1/2 inch down. I'd rather have it too long than not long enough. There we go. Okay, I'm going to, here's the bottom of it. I'm just going to come down another 1/2 inch. Okay. Use my ruler and square it up. See, now it's cut a little bit bigger than I need. I really only need another 1/2 inch. I don't think it'll shrink anymore, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the batting on the back of this whole thing, and I'm going to stipple it, channel stitch it, whatever, in order to attach the batting. Or you could just spray it on, but I would like it stippled, especially here at the top. I think that would look a lot nicer. So I'm going to go ahead, and you can free motion quilt it. You can put it on your embroidery machine and quilt it. You can do it with your walking foot, or you really don't have to do anything at all. But this has got a little puckering, and I don't like the looks of that. So my way of coping with puckering on a quilt is to simply quilt it to batting, and it'll be fine. I'm not going to put the backing on it right now. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera, because everybody's going to do it differently. Okay, I finished quilting it. I just did a simple stipple on the back. You did it the same color, super fast. I just did normal stippling, but you can do whatever you like, or you don't have to do anything at all if you don't like. I just like the weight of it if it's quilted. Remember, we had this center seam, so we're going to be using that as a reference line. So here, okay, I'm going to be putting my loops here, and I'll be marking those in a little bit. But okay, so I know that's the bottom of that block. I want to come up about 1/2 inch. I have this line here, and I know that this line is straight. Okay, I'm going to take where that is, and I'm going to put my center line down the center of the ruler and come up 1/2 inch. I'm going to keep a line, perpendicular line, absolutely right on top of that center, and I'm going to mark across. Okay, this is extra bright. You don't need it this bright, okay? Now I'm going to take my piece here. Now I do have it marked where the center is. I'm going to put the edge of the bottom of this pocket and put that right in the center, and I'm just going to pin it in place just for now. I want this to go straight up and down. I'm going to come into my sewing machine. I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all along. I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch seam all the way along this edge. Okay, I have sewn, did it off camera, but I just basted the bottom into place. So now I can flip this up if you like. You can just finger press this to the top. You could, if you wanted to, later on top stitch this. I'm not going to, but you could. I want to get these pockets nice and straight and just put a couple of pins here and here. Now for the next one. I'm going to put this maybe about a ½ inch apart. Okay, I think I like that spacing. It gives me room to put the loop in here and show a little bit of the blow through. I don't want to show a whole lot of it, but I want to make sure all of these pockets are aligned, one up vertically. Okay, we're ready to put the second row on. Okay, so I've matched this up with the top row. I'm going to put a couple of marks this way so that I know exactly where these pocket lines are, especially on this outside. Okay, and I'm going to mark across like that. I'm going to take my ruler. Okay, and here's the mark I made. Again, make sure the center line is just right. Go up a ½ inch from that little mark you made. Go across. Okay. And we're going to repeat the same process for the 5 pockets. So here we go. This was that way. Okay, I've got some lines here. I just want to extend up so I can see them. Okay, so now I put right there, pin it. Put as many pins as you feel you need to. I like to make sure I have these pocket lines in place so I know that the top pockets are the same. Okay, and I'm going to repeat the process. I am going to just stitch along the bottom of the pocket so that it attaches it to the batting and the top. And I'm going to repeat that for all 5 pockets. So I will be back. I'm going to go ahead and do that off camera. Okay, I have all 5 rows in place. Now what I did at the bottom row, instead of doing the ½ inch and flipping it up, I just put it into place and I just top stitched along the bottom because we're going to be putting the binding along this bottom area as well. You don't need a closure on here, but I like a closure on here. So I'm going to take my corded elastic. Okay, I'm going to start at one end. Okay, here's my button, which I've already put into place. And I have just above the pocket, not underneath and not above where you can see it a lot. I'm just going to put a pin in right in the center of where that button is sewn. Push that through. Okay, on the other end, I've taken my elastic and I've used a really thick needle so that I could thread it like it is thread. So the first one, I'm going to start on one side of this, or the outside edge of it, go to one side of the pin, usually the left side of the pin. Pull this up. I can take that pin out for the moment. Okay, and leave about a 3-inch tail. Go straight down right beside it. See, I'm going right here, right beside where I brought the needle out, and go straight through and pull. You want to make sure that this doesn't twist. Sometimes the elastic wants to roll and twist on you, so you want to make it a little bit bigger than the button. So I'm going to push this over the button, and I'm going to take this pin that I just used and I'm going to put it right at the bottom of the button, and I'm going to just put that pin there, because now when I pull this, I don't want to pull it so tight that I can't get that button on and off. So what you can do to make sure, before you put that pin in, hold that here. Make sure you can comfortably get the button looped and unlooped. And if you can, you don't want it tight. You don't want it so loose that it's not going to hold the pocket in place. And if it does work out, then put that pin in there. Turn it on the back. Okay, and you're going to tie a knot, just a simple knot. Don't tie it firm, but not tight. Take the second, do an overhead knot. Now make this one a little tighter. If it's the end, then do a third one and really pull on that knot height. Okay, now you can actually, in this knot here, put in some fray check or something that'll glue that knot together, or you can take a needle and thread and just tack in this knot into the batting and it won't come out. Most of the time you don't have to do this. I'm mostly going to use like fray check. Just run it through the loop a little bit. That knot's not going to pull out. Clip it and then clip that about 1 inch away. Okay, now for the next one. And make sure this is just firm. Don't want it stretched out. I don't want it pulling. I don't want it looping so that it can get too stretched. But if for some reason the knot pulls through, you're not going to lose your whole chain. It's not going to make a hole. Okay. You want to test it. You're going to test every single button before you go too far. And now run it underneath and through the loop to make a simple knot. Pull this one firm but not tight. Do the second one tight. See, now you can tighten that up. You don't need to do a third. See, now you can tighten that up, and before you go on, check it to make sure you can take the loop on and off. And then you continue on until you get to the end of the row. Okay, I'll be back when this is done. Okay, now this is the last one in the row, so I've got it the correct tautness. So I'm going to just tie a simple knot, just like I did at the beginning. Taut but not tight. And this one I'm going to do it's the end, so that one's a little tighter. And then the last one I'm going to do really tight. Helps to, there. And nice and tight. And I'm also going to stitch the ends. I'm going to tack them down from the back. That's good enough. Okay, so now the buttons are nice and secure. We're ready to put this thing together now. Okay, I finished putting the elastics on so all of the buttons close and open easily. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is to square up my wall hanging. And here I squared up the top and the bottom all the way around. I squared it up to within 1/2 inch of this line right here, but you can do it however wide or narrow as you like. Then I cut my backing, and this turned out to be 16¼ inches wide by 30 inches long, so I cut my backing fabric the same as well. I'd recommend, if you're in a hurry, don't put the buttons and the loops on there. That took a lot of time, but you will see that these pockets, they will stay nice and still, and as long as you press it, it'll look just fine. You don't need to have an enclosure. I just have tons of these buttons and wanted to use them. So you have two choices for finishing this. You can take your backing fabric, and I would baste the ends because these pockets are still open, and I glue basted these together, but you could sew them, you know, just stay stitch the edges. I just used Elmer's washable school glue and an iron, and that pressed down. Well, here's one that hasn't been done. So you would take your And of course I used my iron to erase all of my white marks. So I'm just taking a little bit of the glue and heat set it down. And see how this doesn't move? So now that's basted fine. So, okay, to make the tabs, I took, I wanted to make this 2 inches. So I took a strip about 22 inches long. And I'm going to make 5 tabs that are going to be 4 inches long. So I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch down the whole length. And then I will use my fast turn to turn the whole thing. Put in the little pigtail. These fast turns are a little on the pricey side, but oh my gosh, over the years this thing has been really worth its price. Okay, I poke the little pigtail through, and now I will gently pull until I get it through the other end. Okay, and then I'm going to press it and cut it into 4-inch strips and then put the tabs onto my wall hanging. Okay, I'm going to pin the tabs in the top where I want them, which I will do in a moment. And then you're going to put your backing fabric on here, pin it right sides together. I would leave an opening probably at the top and sew 1/4 inch all the way around, turn it, and just like you would do any kind of facing. So I'm not going to do it that way. I'm choosing to bind it, and I want to use this as my binding. So what I'm going to do is spray base this together and apply my binding. Okay, so I'm not going to show you how to do binding here. I have another video. Look in the description box below for the link to it on how to bind your quilt. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this on so that I'm going to stay stitch all the way around, and then I'm going to apply my binding and the tabs. So I will be back. Okay, here it is all finished. I've bound it. You're going to want to sew these pockets on through all of the layers. You're going to need to stitch right along this edge. Don't catch the pocket. You just want to catch the backing here, because that's going to open up the pocket, and you're going to want to sew in between both of these pockets just through the one layer here, and that will allow you to open up the gusset. And on this side you do the same thing. You're going to stitch right along this edge on this single piece of fabric. You'll need to pull this back out of the way. Okay, so we want to sew right down this edge. I've marked it so that you can see it on camera, because you don't want to catch the pockets. You're going to want to pull that aside. Okay, and right at the top here, just edges are a little hard. You might want to use a walking foot. Pull that way back. And then, and I'm going to pull these aside. Don't shift the pocket underneath. Just pull those aside. Stitch. Starting at the top, double stack, stitch that, pull this back. Into the pocket. Back tack it, raise that presser foot and pull this pocket over to the side. Okay, leaving it in the center, and just go all the way down. And see, now these pockets are secure. That looks really good. And see, you really don't need to have these on, because look, I'm just going to take this off. And see, that pocket opens up just a little bit so that you can put some things in it. You know, just you can put quite a bit in here. Yeah, it's a little more than I would normally put, but see, that's going to hold fine. I have it looped, unlooped, it's up to you. And so you're going to do that for all the pockets. All right, I have finished putting the binding on this quilt. It's all ready to put little gifts inside the pockets, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and decorate these trees. I've added hot fix rhinestones that I had on hand, but you could also use like beads, sequins, little buttons, whatever you have to decorate it, or you don't have to decorate it at all. I preferred to put the crystals on there. So this is what it looks like all done, and here is number 25, which is the most decorated of all the blocks. Notice as the days go on, each tree is decorated a little more and a little more and a little more until Christmas, which is the 25th, and this is what that one looks like. Okay, so now it's finished. If you have any questions, email me at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. This one does not have written instructions because everybody's is going to be a little bit different. Hopefully this video showed you how to set up your own block sizes and the size of your wall hanging. Okay, if you would like a copy of the tree designs that's already digitized, send me an email at waltzquilt@yahoo.com. If you want to know how to digitize your own using Embrillaince Stitch Artist software, check the link to the video below where I show you how to do that. And also, if you want to digitize this using the IQ Designer or the My Design Center software from your sewing machine on the Babylock and the Brothers sewing machines, also check the link below. I've got a video on how to do that. Okay, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Until next time, Merry Christmas, and I hope you enjoy this project. Bye-bye.